Hey y'all, I'm Tim. Welcome to the MrMaple Show. We got a cool one for you today. Get excited.
Guys, today's show is called the Saturday Showcase, and for good reason. Today we've kind of coined a little bit of a phrase here at MrMaple. We've started including a lot of those Mikawa Yatsubusa variants in a term we're calling the Mikawa Yatsubusa family. There's enough of them out there for it to be its own collection now. So today we're going to be talking about the Mikawa Yatsubusa family. So Mikawa Yatsubusa and some of its fun cousins. I know you're going to love this one. If you enjoy this, stick around. There may be a part 2 coming soon, maybe even a part 3. We've got a lot of fun variations of Mikawa Yatsubusa. It's one of our most requested topics. I think you're going to like this one.
So we're going to start out today with Acer palmatum Mikawa Yatsubusa. This is probably one of our most popular Japanese maples, and it's a little dwarf green Japanese maple that has a tightly layering habit that looks almost like it's alive. It looks very fluffy out there because of that tightly layering habit.
Yeah, Tim and I will often ask people the question, even before we were doing the podcast, we would grab people and we would say, what's your favorite Japanese maple? And the number one answer is always Mikawa Yatsubusa. I would say we get other answers, but that is by far the most common answer given when asked famous nurserymen, authors, and different people. Everybody's drawn to this one for its tight, unique shape, compact habit. It has that bonsai-esque look to it, even as a small tree in the landscape. It's a nice dwarf that gives you everything you could want in a Japanese maple, from cold tolerance to heat tolerance and ever-changing beauty, from that green spring color into some of the fiery oranges and reds of fall. Now we're actually shooting this video in November, so a lot of trees have already started to drop leaf, but we wanted to get on here and talk to you about Mikawa Yatsubusa and some of its children that I think are some of the coolest plants we do.
Now, Acer palmatum Mikawa Yatsubusa that we offer when it's just labeled as Mikawa Yatsubusa, that is a grafted plant. Sometimes we'll offer this plant as a high graft, which means they'll be grafted up higher. So we often call that a Mikawa lollipop. Or sometimes we may offer a Mikawa Yatsubusa seedling, which is a seedling off of this that isn't grafted. What we're talking to you today about is the grafted form of Mikawa Yatsubusa. And it's just such an amazing plant. It's extremely hardy. It's great for bonsai. I mean, we've got all of our videos on great trees for bonsai. Mm-hmm. And any of these Mikawa types could be turned into a bonsai because they are just so unique with that tightly layering habit. Mikawa Yatsubusa itself is extremely popular for bonsai because it is so unique and so different. It's extremely hardy as well. I mean, I've seen this tree growing in full sun in very hot climates. And this is a plant that fits excellent in a container or those small places out in the landscape.
Now we've introduced you properly to Mikawa. Most of you probably know about Mikawa Yatsubusa. It's probably our top selling tree here at MrMaple. It always is very popular, and for good reason. Now, you've seen the Ghost series, you've seen the Pendulous Treasure series. We're kind of coining this phrase, the Mikawa family, and there's some different interesting new variations of Mikawa Yatsubusa. So let's get into a few of these variants and why they really add a lot to the landscape. You can take some of those cool traits that you have with Mikawa Yatsubusa and extend them into different colors, different shapes, different types of variegation that really add to everything we love about Mikawa Yatsubusa, but give it a little bit something extra. Now, these are all going to be trees that have that same tight shingled layering of Mikawa Yatsubusa. Maybe they all might not be seedlings from Mikawa. Some of that we don't know, but the ones on the table here today are variations of Mikawa Yatsubusa with that nice tight shingled layering.
Now, they all have slightly different fall colors, but mostly they're going to be in that red to orange kind of color in the fall, like Mikawa Yatsubusa. The next one we got up is one of the ones by Talon Buckholz. I remember us going out to his nursery when we were our very first trips and seeing Japanese Princess and just freaking out about these amazing Japanese Princess specimens he had at his nursery.
I would say to date, Japanese Princess is probably the most popular variant of Mikawa Yatsubusa. This is a dwarf pink form. It's a little slower growing than Mikawa Yatsubusa. Tends to be in that 3 to 4 foot range, even in 10 to 15 years, so a little bit more compact than Mikawa. What makes this one special is that color variation. Japanese Princess leaves out a soft pink to bright pink in the early spring, depending on how much sun you give it. If you're giving it more sun, you can get into those brighter shades of pink. If you're giving it more late day shade, you're going to get some really interesting swirling. Oftentimes people will say, I found a sport on Japanese Princess, and I'll let them know that's just part of the magic that Japanese Princess already has. Especially if you have this one in shade, it'll be a soft pink with swirling whites in it. And Tim often describes this as fading to more of a blonde coloration midsummer.
Love this plant. It's awesome because of that spring color that it gives. It gives you that same tightly layering habit that Mikawa Yatsubusa has. And while Mikawa Yatsubusa has a flatter leaf, this one will actually curl a little bit. And it has a little more bubbly appearance to it with that curl in the leaf itself. And that gives this plant a unique look, even midsummer when the colors may be getting similar to some of the other Japanese maple types.
Yeah, it just feels a little more ruffled. It's very much a very ornamental tree. Now, any of these are going to work great in container gardens because they're variations of Mikawa, which is a dwarf compact form. So container gardens are going to be excellent for these. Another very popular use is to add that deciduous splash into a conifer garden. Because Mikawa and the Mikawa family are dwarfer overall trees, they make a great deciduous splash to give you fall color and spring interest in an evergreen garden. And Japanese Princess is no exception to that. I've seen it in some great conifer gardens. It's always a popular candidate for container gardening as well.
And it is just a plant that is just unique. With that spring color, it was the first selection that people had made popular here in the United States. And it's a plant that people come and ask for by name because this plant is so amazing. I mean, Japanese Princess, one that should be turned into bonsai. It's one that gives you good spring interest, but also it's a slightly slower grower than Mikawa Yatsubusa. I mean, Mikawa Yatsubusa, very similar in its growth habit, but slightly slower than Mikawa Yatsubusa. So do keep that in mind. Many of these variants will be slightly slower than Mikawa Yatsubusa.
Now, moving on to one that's a little faster than Mikawa Yatsubusa. when we selected here at our nursery, Acer palmatum koi. Now, this is a very unique form. I find it to be more vigorous than Mikawa, a little more cartoonish looking in its leaf. It has a very rounded leaf to it. This one has a bronzing that's very special. I love the fall color too. You get some good variations in that. Often yellow splashed with oranges, and really special plant overall. I find it to be a nice, very dense, slightly faster growing form of Mikawa Yatsubusa.
Yeah, and you're really starting to see these color variations, how they develop with Mikawa Yatsubusa, from the pink to the bronze. I mean, the bronze color on a Mikawa Yatsubusa just gives it something extra special. We used to go to a lot of koi shows, and you know, that sort of bronze color we'd often see in a lot of koi fish. And this one just changes and has such amazing colors throughout the season. Sometimes those flushes during the summer can really give you some bronzes to yellows. I mean, it's such a unique plant. And like Matt talked about, the leaf shape on this one is very rounded and different. It stands out from Japanese Princess itself on its leaf shape, and stands out from Mikawa Yatsubusa. And so again, we've got a slightly different variation on the leaf, but also a variation on the spring color when it comes to Acer palmatum koi.
One thing I'm a huge fan of with koi is it puts on a lot of good interior growth. So you got a lot of density going on. It makes it very dense and full. It's gonna be a good one for you bonsai guys because of that density it puts on from inside. That's gonna give you a lot to work with. Makes an awesome small specimen there in the ground. Typically this one's gonna be 5 to 6 foot, even in 15 years. So still not a giant, but slightly more elevated than Mikawa Yatsubusa in its growth rate. I'm a huge fan of this one. There's a lot of Japanese maples that are seedlings from koi that kind of leaf out with a little bit more bronzing. This one just had a lot extra. When we name a tree, we go through thousands of seedlings from it. One year we went through 250 pounds of seed, and I bet you 50 pounds of that seed was Mikawa Yatsubusa. And we only picked out 2 trees that made it into cultivar status from that. I think koi has a lot to offer. It's a very unique one. And I think as it gets out there more, it's going to be up there in that topper echelon for Mikawa family plants.
I think that's for sure. I mean, you start to see these color variations on distinct, unique colors. And so they are distinct, unique plants. I will say, though, with Mikawa variants in that Mikawa family collection, environmental factors can play a role on the color. So you may get some that Japanese Princess may go more orange one year or something unusual. But these were distinctly different plants that were selected for having distinctively different colors in the spring. When you have them near each other, you can see that distinctive color difference.
I think one of the easiest ways to get to a lot of the premium color on the Mikawa family is early morning sun, late day shade, and planted in the ground. I've seen great color in pots, but I've seen my most consistent colors in this Mikawa bed I have that gets early morning sun, late day shade. That one really shows out all the difference and variations in each of the Mikawa types.
And that's also a great way to prolong your spring interest, Japanese maples of any type, longer into the season, because as that summer heat comes in and they start pushing more chlorophyll into the leaves, you're going to lose that spring color on many spring colored Japanese maples. And with protection from the hot afternoon sun, you can keep that spring color much longer throughout the season.
Now I can hear you guys already. It's not listed on MrMaple right now. Well, a lot of these do sell out fairly quickly. We definitely have Mikawa Yatsubusa up at the time. So you'll want to sign up for our 10 at 10s because a lot of these items do sell out fairly quickly when we relist them. So moving along to the one that probably sells out one of the fastest, Acer palmatum Mayday. Now this is another one by Talon Buchholz from that Flora Wonder collection. This is probably the fastest of all to sell out until we release a few more. But right now this one tends to go, you know, I get people that get mad because we'll list 50 of these and they'll sell out in 3 minutes. So it is very popular. I know Talon hasn't been producing as many of these. I think we bought every stock plant we could get, so we have a lot of sign to be producing from. So it's one we're always working to increase numbers on. And we make it no secret, guys. We always release our plants on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. That way it's fair for everybody. Acer palmatum Mayday, one of the most highly sought after variations so far. This one brings a lot of soft yellows to almost a pink border to it in the early spring. It makes a nice color pairing with Japanese Princess and some of these others we have here on the table, but I think it's one you're definitely going to want to add. We'll be bringing a lot more. I've got a lot of big stock plants of this one producing scion, so if it does sell out quickly for you, come back. We'll be doing more and more, and we only increase numbers and things that we like.
And sometimes this one can give you a light orange right before it goes to that light yellow. I mean, it's such a light color that it brightens up the Mikawa family collection. I mean, when you have these planted in your garden, it definitely stands out because of that brighter spring color that is a lighter color and gives contrast so well to all these others.
I've had it be a soft pale yellow, and it just looks excellent. I have it actually near koi, and I have all these together in one bed. Many of you might even seen that video where I do a quick walkthrough. I'm changing it around a lot right now, taking out some of the conifers and I've added more Mikawa types. But Mayday gives you that soft yellow, which I think plays off some of the other Mikawa types so well.
Yeah.
It's almost a pale yellow, especially early spring. I've got some great size stock plants of this one, but I'm a huge fan of what it brings to the table. I would say the leaf is the most like Mikawa Yatsubusa, has a very distinctive leaf that's I would say closest to the parent plant of any of these variations.
But also of the ones on the table, it's probably the slowest growing one.
True. It is right there with Japanese Princess for compact density.
Yeah, I love that plant for what it brings, especially what it brings to these smaller dwarf plants. These Mikawa types do so well in conifer gardens. They fit in small spaces. I mean, they're so unique and different as a Japanese maple. You can pair them with other Japanese maples, other Mikawa types, or you can pair them with things like conifers or other plants. But be careful when you're pairing this with plants that may be growing around the base of these. I mean, that's something you don't want to do with some dwarf Japanese maples.
They're compact already, so you can slow them down, planting them too close to a big thick grass or a yew that might give them too much root competition. These are really showcase plants, so they kind of stand out on their own. You kind of want to give these not a lot of competition, and container gardening works great, but you're going to want to put these in a focal point where you can really enjoy the premium color and I would say one of the more interesting plants in the landscape you can be growing.
That's for sure. And so we're going to end out today's discussion with Acer palmatum Red Panda.
Now this one will probably be the most popular one on the table when we drop it. It's another one of our introductions. I actually put the name Red Panda on this when I was going through a nature exhibit with my daughter, and she was just enjoying the red pandas, and I thought, I have a seedling that looks just like that, and I love it. This one's a fiery orangey red in the early spring. It is one of the darkest reds we've ever seen, and so far for us, it's held that color latest into the season. So it's been the winner every single year when compared to other red Mikawa Yatsubusa forms for holding that color late.
And we do have all Mikawa Yatsubusa forms almost that are out there on the market, or things that have been trialing, people have been trialing for years. We have those here. Those may make it to a future Mikawa Yatsubusa variant collection, but Red Panda has been the one that holds its red longer throughout the season. And then, as they start to go green during that late spring, early summer, the new growth flushes midsummer on Red Panda return with some really good red color. And so you get some really nice color across this plant, more so than many of the other red Mikawa Yatsubusa types.
Yeah, this one hadn't been listed yet. It'll probably be coming first in 2023, maybe spring, summer 2023. We've been building numbers on it. You probably heard me say this. A guy weed eated down my original one, so it did set us a little bit back. Be careful with those weed eaters. People laugh in that video about top 5 comments. They're like, these guys talked about weed eaters for like 2 minutes. Well, yeah, somebody had mowed over my Red Panda, so we always stress, watch out for the weed eaters. I have plenty of these grafted though, and many of the grafted ones have already exceeded the shape of the original seedling. Awesome plant. It has more of an elongated leaf, so it has a very long, almost finger-like leaf for a Mikawa Yatsubusa variant, and the most premium red color we've had on one yet. I've really been impressed with this one. I think it really adds something special. You can almost get a metallic-y color on the new growth in the early spring, It's kind of shiny, glossy. Probably my favorite overall of the Mikawa Yatsubusa family so far.
And it's pretty awesome here. We've got the original, the OG Mikawa Yatsubusa. We've got Japanese Princess, the more pink form. We've got Koi, the bronze form. We've got Mayday, that light yellow. And then Red Panda, which is one of the best red forms of the Mikawa Yatsubusa. So this has been, sort of rounds out the Mikawa Yatsubusa collection. But there's so many more. I mean, there's so many more.
Yeah.
So this definitely...
Guys, let us know in the comment section if you want to see a part 2. Spoiler alert, we're doing it anyway because we like making the content we love. So we're going to do a part 2 of this, maybe in a part 3. So be sticking around for that. We love doing these Saturday showcases. They're a good excuse for us to grab some plants we're passionate about, throw them together in a collection, and talk to you guys about them. And that's exactly what we wanted to do today with that Mikawa Yatsubusa family.
And I really hope you've enjoyed this. I know I enjoy talking about these plants, so I hope you enjoy listening to us talk about them, because the Mikawa Yatsubusas and their progeny are some of our most popular Japanese maples, but also the ones we love so much because they are very distinctive. And I think each of these are distinctive in their own right and deserve a place in the garden.
Yeah, we've got the OG Mikawa here, 2 by MrMaple and 2 by Talon Buchholz. So some really good ones here. I think some of these are some of our best introductions we'll ever list. Definitely check out the podcast we did with Talon Buchholz. We did an interview with him. We got to sit down with Talon and do a full interview. I think it's one of the best podcasts we'll ever do. Maybe we climbed the top of the mountain too soon on the podcast, but one of my favorite people to ever interview, Talon Buchholz. He introduced the Mayday and the Japanese Princess on this table. You're definitely going to want to check that out. That's on any podcast platform, but you can also check out the video on the MrMaple show here. I hope you enjoyed this little brief, a discussion on the Mikawa Yatsubusa family. Let us know in the comments section below which of these on the table is your favorite of the Mikawa Yatsubusa variants.
That's a hard question.
Yeah, I mean, only one.
You only can choose one.
You can only choose one.
That's going to be really entertaining to see what people say in the live chat, because they are each amazing plants. I mean, each of these plants, when we often say our favorites, we say Mikawa Yatsubusa and its kids.
This is kind of our cop-out answer a lot of times because, Jim Putnam was here and he asked us what our favorite Japanese maple was. And I was going to pick Mikawa Yatsubusa and all of its progeny. I decided to go with Hot Blonde and let you have that one because I did name Hot Blonde for my wife. But Mikawa Yatsubusa, you can kind of throw that whole family in there, and then you can describe all the litany of different traits that each have and all the different nuances to each one. So if you include that in that family, it's hard to beat the Mikawa family for popularity.
If you like this type of content, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That way you can watch all of our videos as they're coming out. And make sure you're shopping on MrMaple.com, because the customers that shop with us allow us to do more and more of these videos. We really appreciate it. We love talking about plants and being able to share our passion with you.
Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.